Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 9th of April still. Now it's 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my second update today, in which I will share latest updates on the news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages. Dear friends, if you have time and if you didn't see first update, please do so, because I'm not gonna repeat same news in this video. But before I start with updates, let me say happy Easter to everyone who celebrates this great day today. Me being Orthodox Christian, I will celebrate Easter on 16th of April, when Orthodox Church will celebrate it. But anyway, happy Easter, happy holiday to all of you. And let's talk about news now. I will start with the Ukrainian special military operation. We have a report from RIA Novosti news agency, which is based on statements from Russian Defense Ministry. And according to this information, Zelensky's regime did lost up to 60 soldiers in Kherson direction in previous 24 hours. Also, 3 armored personnel carriers and quite a few self-prepared howitzers, among them Akatsiya, Gozdika and Gyatsind Bay. Gyatsind Bay is a field artillery piece. So there was some, seems like heavy artillery duels between the sides, and Russian forces were probably more accurate. That's when you have this kind of information that artillery was destroyed of opposite side. And let me show you Kherson region. We are talking about this area here. And now almost every day we will probably see more and more active clashes. First of all, artillery duels, but eventually I'm quite sure Zelensky's regime will try to cross this waterway, Dnieper River, and establish some bridge heads on the left bank. And that will be done in preparation of this anticipated by many counteroffensive of Zelensky's regime in direction of Azov Sea, Crimea and Azov Sea. And to do so, Zelensky's regime don't really have a choice other than try to establish some bridgeheads in Kherson region. And also, Zelensky's regime will, of course, accumulate its forces in this area, in Zaporozhye, in Kryvyi Rog, Zaporozhye direction. And eventually they will, in days times or maybe in coming weeks, they will definitely try to conduct some counteroffensive to establish control over this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. Let's continue now, and this is still RIA Novosti report about casualties, losses of Zelensky's regime in Donetsk direction. As you know, Donetsk direction is always active. If Kherson region and Zaporozhye region, for now and for quite some time now, it's mainly artillery duels between the sides. When it comes to Donetsk direction, it's a completely different picture, and we have heavy clashes in this area. And we have information that in previous 24 hours, Zelensky's regime did lost up to 250 soldiers in this direction. Also, 1 tank and 3 armored personnel carriers and a few pieces of self-propelled howitzers, among them Stab and D20 artillery piece. Let me show you this area. This is Donetsk direction. Basically, it from Marinka to basically Bakhmut. That's entire this area we can call Donetsk direction, especially Avdiivka, of course. And we have information here from aide of head of DPR, Jan Gagin, and he said that this is TASS news agency, by the way, TASS news agency's report. And according to Jan Gagin, Russian side did establish full control over the tire repair manufacturing plant in close vicinity from Marinka city. Let me show this area. So Marinka is here. And if we zoom in, that's a plant that I was talking about, tire repair plant, and quite a huge area really. And this territory is now under Russian control. This pro-Ukrainian map will acknowledge this in coming days now, but not straight away, not today. Let's continue now with some other news, and this is RIA Novosti's report that Russian Defense Ministry is now preparing some special units. This is quite interesting news. Russian side is preparing special units, and their main goal will be to hunt down Western-made battle tanks. Not really surprising, but still this information probably we can interpret like we can interpret that it's only a matter of time now, and Russian side will have in its hands Western-made battle tanks. These units will be specialized to hunt down Western-made battle tanks, especially Leopard 2 probably, or maybe even Challenger, because I do believe that Russian manufacturers, Russian armor manufacturers and tank manufacturers will be interested to see in close armor of Challenger 2 tanks. They are famous to have greatest armor from all the main battle tanks, and probably Challenger 2 will also be interesting for Russian engineers to see what is done and how it's done. So yes, special units have been created, and their main task will be to destroy and capture Western-made battle tanks. These units probably will operate in Zaporozhye region. That's Zaporozhye area, and I would not be surprised if in coming days, even before Zelensky's regime will start, anticipated by many counteroffensive, we may learn that Russian side did manage to destroy or capture some Western-made battle tanks. But yet again, let's see. News itself is quite interesting, isn't it? Because you're not gonna hear this kind of stuff every day when some special units have been created with a single purpose to deal with Western-made battle tanks, or with some specialized equipment that have been provided by West to the Zelensky's regime. Let's continue now, and this is TASS news agency's report, according to which, and this news is based on article in New York Times, and yet again we are talking about these so-called classified documents that was leaked, US classified documents that was leaked in internet. And according to those documents, in March, Zelensky's regime was forced to send some reserves in direction of Bakhmut, in direction of Artyomovsk. As you know, this city has two names. Russian name is Artyomovsk, Ukrainian name is Bakhmut. And according to this information, Zelensky did send in the direction of Bakhmut one of the best military units that they have, and those units were in reserve to conduct counteroffensive in direction of Zaporozhye, as I understand. But yet again, I'm still skeptical about those documents, because I'm not sure this information is correct. Probably what we are seeing now, because of these big names in Western propaganda, like New York Times and Politico and many others, because they are actively actively publishing some materials about these so-called secret documents. This fact itself are creating even more questions that we are receiving answers, and it seems like these news, these media outlets are creating some kind of, they are part of this deception, and they are creating some fog to maybe create some, you know, some maybe to raise some questions among Russian leadership about readiness of Ukrainian armed forces and what they have and what they don't, and which units are dislocated where. All these stories don't seems to be real, man. It's something artificial in this story. And a few minutes ago, I watched update from Alex Christoforou. As you know, he's host of one of the hosts of The Duran, great channel, great expert, Alex himself, and he's thinking that these documents probably are real ones, those top documents, but still I have some doubts about it, man. It's just too good to be true. Timing is very accurate, and informations are not really in favor of Zelensky's regime at some points. And that's why Zelensky's regime did come out and said that these documents are fake from very beginning. And all this stuff does create this feeling that something is wrong with this story, man. At least that's how I see it. Because, for example, this New York Times article that says that Zelensky's regime did send in the direction of Bakhmut one of the greatest units that they have left. And their goal was to somehow deblocate Bakhmut and allow evacuation of wounded, and just to keep fighting in that area. I mean, let's see Bakhmut, man. What happened in March? Did Zelensky's regime have any success in Bakhmut direction? That will tell us that some additional units were, put in place to achieve some successful offensive, even local scale offensives, let's say. No, we did not have any such information. So where those top units, brigades, basically, brigade is a huge military force, and where those brigades went? Did they disappear without trace? Of course not. So there was no, this is deception, man. All those brigades that now Washington is trying to present as lost ones in Bakhmut direction, all those brigades probably still in somewhere in Zaporozhye region and are prepared to conduct counteroffensive. Because, as I said, entire March, if anyone had success in Bakhmut direction, that was PMC Wagner units. And they basically almost on 90, they did establish full control almost on 90% of Bakhmut itself. And simultaneously, if we remember, it was March when PMC Wagner units did top control over the entire this area here, from Krasnaya Gora to all of these settlements here. Dubovo-Vasilievka, Verkhovka, Yahidne, all those territories was become under PMC Wagner units control in March. So what is New York Times is talking about? Where those Ukrainian brigades went and what they did achieve? So it's I don't know. I don't believe this stuff, man. It's definitely, in my opinion, it's definitely deception operation to confuse Russian side. But I hope in general staff of Russian armed forces, they probably are thinking about many things, and probably they are taking these informations, so-called leaks and leaked documents, with with some cautious approach, because if it seems for me as a deception, probably for them also, or at least for some of the officials in general staff, and not just there. Let's continue now. And this is quite interesting news. USA Pentagon did send nuclear submarine in the Middle East, in direction of Middle East, to somehow influence Iran. But yet again, as you know, just previously, China had a massive success when it comes to foreign policy and diplomacy, and of course, I'm talking about the fact that because of Chinese diplomatic activity, Saudi Arabia and Iran did start talk to each other, and they are now establishing diplomatic relationships again. And US, of course, is not happy about it. US elites, let's say this way, they are definitely not happy about it because, in my opinion, and I did share this opinion with you many times before, in my opinion, major plan of Western elites was, even before they provoked this conflict in Ukraine, their major goal was to, first of all, provoke this conflict in Ukraine, then use this conflict to militarize Western states, especially European states, but US also, even though US is militarized to the teeth. They have biggest military budget in world's history, and not just now, but for decades, for God's sake. And then what they wanted, in my opinion, in my reading of this picture, they wanted to push Russia towards China so that, especially in economical terms, so that China will buy more and more energy sources from Russia, especially oil. And basically they did achieve this goal. And Russia now is the main supplier of oil to China. But same time, I believe Western elites wanted to, let me show you on the map this entire territory. So same time, Western elites, in my opinion, wanted to have a age in Middle East so that they will provoke war between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and they will block Persian Gulf in that way. And if that's the case, then of course China will lose one of the main sources of its oil supply, because as I said, Russia may be number one for now, number one supplier of oil to China, but Saudi Arabia is number two. And next month Saudi Arabia can be number one. So Saudi Arabia has great importance for China in terms of energy security. And in my opinion, Western elites had a plan to, for a time that they will decide, they will create war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. They will block shipping in Persian Gulf so that China will lose this route of oil supplies. And then, not Zelensky, but Western elites will try to conduct some regime change in Russia so that Russia will turn its back on China. And once China will lose Russia also as an oil supply, they will be forced to take forcefully closest major oil fields, let's say this way, and where closest to China major oil fields are. Just look at the map, man. It's Kazakhstan, this huge former Soviet Republic, and Russian Federation. Siberia, isn't it? So in my opinion, what Western elites wanted is to create a situation when they will force China to act aggressively towards Russia. So they will create conflict and they will deal with the two major opponents in this world this way. But now look what is happening, man. China, of course, did read this game of Western elites, and they somehow managed to bring together Saudi Arabia and Iran. And now, even if West will be successful, just let's make a thought experiment. Even if they will manage to create some regime change in Russia and make sure that Russia has pro-Western government, and if Russia will turn its back on China, Beijing will still have this major oil route, this major oil reserve, let's say this way, oil supplier, which is the Middle East. Saudi Arabia and Iran, and all Gulf states. And if maybe China don't have a so-called blue water fleet, but China do have a good enough fleet to protect coastal lines. And because Pakistan is a strategic partner of China, and China even operates military base in Pakistan, China has a port in Pakistan. I mean, just look at the length, man. It's just next door for China, and China will be, in my opinion, will have enough forces, maritime forces, to protect this route from Persian Gulf to Pakistan, to Pakistan's coast, and then it can take oil as much as it wants through Pakistan's territory. So in my opinion, I'm talking about this because in my opinion, Western elites did already lost this big game in which they were trying to neutralize simultaneously Russia and China. That's how important, in my opinion, this relationships, re-establishing relationships between Saudi Arabia and Iran is. Western elites did lose this big geopolitical game, and that's why Washington is not happy. Western elites are not happy, and they will try now. Just recently, a few days ago, they did send head of CIA in Saudi Arabia. Now they are sending fleets to demonstrate some force, but they already lost. In my opinion, they already lost Middle East, and they lost this big geopolitical battle with China. That's my reading of this picture anyway. So let's continue now. And this is TASS News Agency's report, according to which in previous 24 hours, 20 Chinese military vessels, military ships, were conducting some training operations in so-called Taiwan Strait, in between Taiwan, this island, and mainland China. As I understand, this has happened the first time when such a huge number of Chinese ships enter this area. And simultaneously, we had some reports that tens of Chinese planes also conduct some training operations, and some of them even simulate precision strikes on some strategic objects on Taiwan. So China is demonstrating its force, and in my opinion, it's only matter of time. And Taiwan's leadership probably will be forced to start talking with Beijing again, and eventually maybe Beijing will manage to bring Taiwan into China without using force, by diplomatic means. But yet again, Western elites will do everything they can to provoke conflict between Taiwan and China. They will do anything they can to provoke conflict, but as I understand, Chinese policy is to deal with this issue with diplomacy, forceful diplomacy, let's say this way, because China is not shy to demonstrate its force, but same time they have declared many times before that they won't resolve this issue peacefully. And I believe Chinese this approach has quite support in Taiwan itself, among ordinary Taiwanese, because I'm quite sure they don't want to see any war between two Chinas, two parts of one country, because Taiwan is a Chinese territory anyway. And Taiwanese people, they are Chinese. They are ethnic Chinese, majority of them. So let's see how will situation develop. But yet again, as you can see, China is definitely not shy to demonstrate force when it's needed. And that's a part of this forceful diplomacy that China is China is, ready to use. Let's say this way. And let's continue now. This is RIA Novosti's report that, according to which, when Macron was in China, and he visited China quite a few days ago, he did make statement that Europe don't really want to become a part of conflict if there will be any clashes between China and Taiwan. To be honest, I don't think Macron has any say in these matters, because I don't think he's an independent politician. But probably we can take his words as a position of European elites, because probably they truly don't want to become a part of possible military conflict between China and Taiwan, in which USA will definitely be involved, because European economies are already struggling, and if they end up in situation when they will be forced to sanction China like they did against Russia, then European economy will just simply collapse, because it's a huge difference between Russia and China when it comes to economical might. Let's be honest. And if EU economies can deal with problems that emerge because of these Western sanctions against Russia, and they are still heavily struggling, can you imagine what will happen to Europe's economy if a very similar situation will repeat itself towards China? European economies will just collapse one by one, like domino. Let's continue now, and this is TASS News Agency's report, according to which Turkish parliament began working on laws, and first law was already voted in Turkish parliament to create legal platform for Energo Hub that Turkish leadership wants to create in Turkey. So this is yet again quite serious development, because many energo producing countries have some interest in this future project if it will succeed. Among them, Russia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan. All these countries are rich with oil and gas, and they will probably use this hub in Iran also. Why not? They will probably use this hub if it will be developed. But yet again, point is, what position will have a Western elite in these terms, and will they allow Turkish leadership to create such a hub? That's a big question. Especially, we may see some difficulties. Not we, but Turkish leadership may see some difficulties with France, for example, because they are in Cold War now. Turkish and French governments, they are in Cold War. And yes, let's see, man. I think it's not gonna be easy ride for Turkish leadership to create this Energo Hub. But it will have demand, definitely. It will be successful if they manage to deal with some issues that Western elites will definitely create. And this is going to be last news for today. RT Rush Today is reporting that Morgan Stanley issues some apocalyptic real estate warning. And according to this article, Morgan Stanley Wealth Management has predicted a collapse of US commercial real estate sector that will be worse than the great financial crisis. The market faces a huge hurdle with basically commercial real estate may fall 40%, worse than it failed in 2008. So it's gonna be some huge deal, and the commercial real estate in US is 2.9 trillion business. It's 2.9 trillion dollars of mortgages that are involved in this business. So if this sector will fail, then Washington will probably start printing dollars day and night, because who's gonna give them 2.9 trillion, man, to save all those companies that use this 2.9 trillion for mortgages. Some of them take this money, some of them lend this money, but eventually someone have to pay for all of it if US commercial real estate will collapse. To be honest, I see this kind of predictions hard to believe. I mean, some of them truly are some apocalyptic, and this one is no exception. Even though Morgan Stanley is a big name, and they probably know what they are talking about, but it's still hard to believe that the situation in US economy is that much bad, man. After all, we are talking about number one economy in the world. So yes, sometimes I truly find it hard to believe that the state of US economy is such bad. Because I mean, if real estate market will collapse, commercial real estate sector, then probably non-commercial sector will follow suit, and that means that this banking crisis will become even bigger. So in that case, we may probably will see some apocalyptic results. But yet again, let's be more optimistic, man, because no one needs some huge crisis in US, because US is number one economy, and if US economy will start collapsing, that's bad news for entire world. That's bad news for entire world. So yes, this is it. This is it for now. This is gonna be last news for second update for today. I hope you will find this video interesting, and if so, please hit that like button. Leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. That will greatly increase my chances to deal with the algorithm of YouTube, which is suppressing all the independent channels, man, just all of them, and my channel is no exception. And if you can, and if you want to, you can support my work and my channel through small donation, through PayPal, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box. And when it comes to Patreon, I just upload the new update like 2 hours ago, and I did spoke about housing in Russia, some other topics that are close to housing topic, and also about I did summarize previous week when it comes to channel and project itself, and I did spoke about some future plans, how I will try or think to develop these channels. So yes, I hope you will find that video also interesting if you are subscribed on my Patreon. This is it for now. Happy Easter to all of you that are celebrating this day today, and have a nice day, and take care. See you soon.